Hello, hello, hello. It is so great to see all the hangers. Oh my gosh. And
I'm
have
glad you guys
discovered that we
are.
all need help with getting our harps together because you guys have flocked in here today and we love it.
It's a good thing you're here early because it's going to be a full house. We actually had so many people signed up, we had to extend our Zoom, our Zoom capacity. I know. Hi,
Isn't
Jude.
that great? Isn't that great? So
So
it's a really good time. It's a really good topic.
I'm seeing,
And it's really timely because I don't know how many of you have had some of your strings go pop, 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 pop. Loves this change of weather, right?
hey, I see a lot of people here that I think can really help us with this. We were talking about, our little chat we're going to have now, and I cannot think of the saying. I was talking about the harp can be, what is it? I think it's Shakespearean, a harsh mistress. Is that it? Does anybody know? Can anybody put it in the chat? I think it's Shakespearean, and my mother is literally probably rolling in her grave that I don't know it. The harp can be, it's not terrible. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Anyway, we'll get started.
None of us can help her with this one. I'm like, I don't know.
There is a phrase. There's definitely a
But
phrase.
I do know it's funny. I don't know. Uh-oh, somebody said cruel. Peter said cruel. Hi, Peter. How you doing?
Harp can be a cruel mistress.
Oh, cruel is true.
Might be it. That might be it. I know harsh is part of it, but we were talking about that because, of course, one of the reasons we chose Liza for June is, there are just so many issues that come up from the weather for so many of us in the summer. Besides string breakage, which I had my harp actually down in Florida, and it was there for 2 weeks. I broke 5 strings. Anybody, did I win? Has anybody broken more than that since Pam says no, since the weather, since this heat wave started? No?
It it's just been we have heat wave, but we've had rain for about I think like 20 days or something. It is just raining. I have given up trying to look cute. I have given up doing anything but keeping my harp dry. I have just been like I was in the rain with my harp and I just made sure my harp stayed dry and I was getting wet, but I told the lady I was already married. I didn't care and what else can you do? It's just been
And I don't think that's good advice. I think
very wet. That's not good advice.
no, I don't think so. You should never bring your harp out in the rain.
Oh, says well, see, you almost maybe said something. Some of us who pay bills do. We just had our 26th weekend in a row, Kimberly says, with precipitation. And to be clear, it wasn't raining when I got there.
One.
And Lisa Tannenbaum says that's why she doesn't have her video on. Oh, Lisa, with all the beautiful gowns and beautiful face, you always could have your camera on. We are excited. I mean, there are so many things that you think about when you think of harp maintenance and what to do with your harp. And I will say, I'm thrilled we have Liza here. But one of the things I want y'all to take away from today is I want us all to like raise our hand and take the pledge of responsibility. Because how many of you have seen a string looking a little frayed, but you're determined to get every pluck out of that string, and then you're mad when you're on a gig and it breaks? I mean, come on. There are some things that we really have to make sure to be accountable for our own selves. With
Especially when they're fifth octave gut strings.
oh
Then you're
gosh,
really just like
oh gosh.
praying.
Try to think what string can I play without, and don't let we've all got stories. We've all got stories of moving a pedal and it didn't move, and you're like, oh. Okay, I guess I won't be in that key. My worst story is I think it's on my Ariana, my lowest E pin is broken. And I was playing a gig with Miranda Adams' husband, who's a trumpet player, but he's married to a harpist. And he looks over at my harp and he says, good thing you don't need that low E. And I was so mad because only somebody who knew the harp would know that I had an issue there, right? So that's my confession. Broken pin.
I'm just wondering how many people here are in a climate that is much more humid in the summer. Just kind of raise of hand, because I know, yeah, that really makes a difference. I know, especially if it's very dry in the winter and then very humid, yeah, in the summer. I always feel like that's the almost the worst of two worlds in a way.
And we often have, though, the harps do, I have to say, while they are harsh, they are kind in some ways. My harps tend to all go out of tune in order. So it's not like just random strings. It'll be at 440, it'll be at 439. It just kindly goes down so that, I still can say, okay, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. But MJ, what is the trivia? Because we've got a lot of stuff today to go through. So,
We got over 50 questions for Liza for today that people mailed in to Katie. So I guess this kind of goes along with the Harp being a harsh mistress. And thank you to Daron, who said the moon is a harsh mistress. That's where it comes from. You're right. It's not Shakespeare. It's a 1966 science fiction novel. Although I do think it has some basics in basis in English literature somewhere. But I think we all feel that way. I always feel that way in the summer anyway. So, but this is particularly challenging in terms of being a harpist, because I'm wondering if anyone here can name two countries where in the 1600s the harp was banned. During this time, many harps were burned and some harpists were executed. So, would you die for your harp? That's the next question, but you don't have to answer. Susanna, like that. You don't have to answer that one here. So, that is our trivia. I'm going to read that again. Name two countries where in the 1600s harps were banned. Many of the harps were burned, and some of the harpists were even executed. So that's I know it's not, oh, wow, I guess that wasn't that hard. Very good, Lisa. Bing, 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 right away. And at the end of the session, well, actually, we're going to have, for just a second, we're going to have David Rand talk a little bit about that because he is a wealth of knowledge. I don't know if you know David. He is our assistant manager in Atlanta. He's like a walking encyclopedia. So, all right. So very good. Yes, lots, and Scotland as well. It was the English, if you're wondering why, because the harp was a symbolism of the Celtic culture, and the English were trying to squelch the Celtic heritage. So there you go. All right. Bring her on in.
okay, so listen, Liza, apparently, as MJ said, we literally 70 questions thus far, and I see some of you are still adding questions in. We will not get to all of the questions today, but perhaps MJ will let you know what we're going to be doing. But in the chat is a PDF of the questions that came in before today. About 40 more has come in already today. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to tell you that Liza is one of the best harp technicians I know. The thing that is so fantastic and different about Liza, besides the fact that she will go anywhere at almost any time, you can always hear about Liza being in Timbuktu, and then in Colombia, and then in Florida. She's all over the place, which is really good because harp technicians are getting increasingly hard to find. But Liza is one of the only technicians who deal in all of the harp brands. She's like Virginia Harp Center. You can buy any harp from Virginia. Eliza will work on any harp. It's a really great thing because sometimes you have to wait even longer when you're looking for a specific brand of harp. Liza is also a harpist. And that is helpful when you have a technician that also can play the harp and really, I think, has a different sensitive nature towards what she's trying to do. Not only does she, repair your harp, she repairs harps even physically. I've had a harp that was busted in the side. And even though she will make a joke and put you on Instagram with your broken harp, she will post up, but she does fix it. So we want her to get to these questions. It's a lot to get through. We're going to bring her up, and she's going to be starting with maintenance and cleaning. There are so many people. I don't know where Liza is, but Liza, come on out. And it is so good to see all the faces. Hi, Debbie. Hi, New Zealand is in there. Look, Maureen. Hi, Somerset's in the house. It's beautiful to see all the people. And there's Liza.
So
Liza, I'm turning it over to you.
clarify before Liza starts, there is a second. Liza sent out a very brief one with her bulletin points, and then we sent her the one underneath that that has about 1 million questions. So the second PDF that is the first or the second new PDF that is in the chat is what we'll be using today, and we're going to start not at the beginning. We're going to start in maintenance and cleaning, and then go on from there. So does everybody have that? You can bring that up. All right, good. All right, Liza, take it away.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us and being so inquisitive about your harp health. It's very important that you take care of your harp, of course. So I'm just going to get right to it because there's a ton to cover. So maintenance and cleaning. So I'm just going to read the first question. Keeping correcting finish on correcting finish on natural harp with black clothing transfer. The dye from your pants has gotten on your harp. So that is problematic. The clear finish absorbs dye. The only way to really take care of it is you have to sand it off. Occasionally, you can get some soap and a cloth, and sometimes if it's soon enough, you can get it out if it's not too deep. But if it has penetrated through the finish, you actually have to sand it off. So there you go. Next question. Cleaning after outdoor gigs, 50-year-old harp maintenance, removing sticky residue. Not sure exactly what all of those things mean, but cleaning after your outdoor gig. So one of the things you can do is get a nice paintbrush, soft bristle brush. And you're just going to, it doesn't matter whether you're a lever harp or pedal harp, you're going to just brush debris out of your hardware. You can do that. And let's see, I'm not sure. 50-year-old harp maintenance, removing sticky residue. I'm just not sure exactly what that means.
Liza, when the harps on the sides get that buildup and they get kind of sticky, and I guess the point is not to let it get to the buildup, but you know how sometimes they just feel so soft and being outside makes them soft. It's not my question, but I know about
No,
sticky
I get it.
harps.
Which is tied in actually to the next question, which again addresses dye and hand sweat from the sides of the harp. So if it gets to the point where it's really soft and it's really discolored, that's not really something you can take care of yourself at that point. You let it go too long. If it's just kind of dirty and it's just starting to build up, then you should be able to use some window cleaner, ammonia-free window cleaner. And you can spritz the side of your harp and then clean it with a cloth, and that will that cleans it right up. I kind of prefer using that over soap and water, because with soap and water, you still have soap residue. And you have to remember to dry it off. So I don't want to say that I'm lazy, but sometimes I'm lazy. And I just want to go choot, choot, wipe, wipe, all done, no brainer. Or put it on your cloth. Spray your cloth really well and wipe it down. And that's not a terrible thing to do.
So Liza, when the buildup is really bad, what do you recommend? Do you actually deal with that as a technician? I mean, what do you?
Well, I deal with it as a woodworker. So that's not a typical, as far as I know, not a normal thing that a technician does. because there's a point when I actually have to use, I have a special tool and I will actually take it to scrape it off, and it just makes these long rolls. That's how soft it's become. And then I sand it down and I literally just refinish it.
And can that buildup affect the sound?
No,
Okay.
but it affects your wood, you know. I would say on the whole, it's more of a cosmetic issue than, you know, a structural issue. It compromises your wood somewhat, but you know, it's not going to fall apart. It's mostly just gross.
And can I say real quickly, because we have lovely group of new people here, you
Ah,
will be able to see this recording again. So while I want you to be taking copious notes, just know that you'll be able to listen to it again and again.
ah,
And I'm sort of doing cliff notes in the chat.
okay. Okay. So yeah, if you let that, and also your neck also is up against the side of the harp. So it's not just your hands, it's also your neck on this side, particularly, obviously, where you play. So the main thing really is, you know, make sure that your hands are clean. And everybody also has different pH levels. So I have extremely dry skin. So I don't have this issue so much. The other thing too is if you have a high gloss finish is a harder finish as opposed to a satin finish or a matte finish. And those are a softer finish, and they do tend to get softer with the touching of the oils in your hands. If you know you have a higher pH level, then you'll definitely want to keep a sweat rag next to you to keep drying your hands off on. That will also be very helpful so that you don't get to that point. And just clean your harp regularly. Next, oxidize dull bass strings. Safe way to brighten? No. Sorry, but no. you can't polish your strings. There's, you know, you can wipe them as much as you want with a very dry cloth. That's it. But you cannot re-brighten your strings. So, but it also, oxidization does not affect the tone of your strings. They're still going to be bright. It's why you got silver strings in the first place. I'm assuming you're talking about silver strings, because the nickel plated strings don't tarnish. That's why they're called tarnish resistant strings. So it's your silver strings that you get, but they will still have that nice extra little sparkle, even though they're oxidized. So you don't have to worry about it. It's just how it looks.
I'm sorry, Liza, can you clarify? So there's a sound difference between the nickel plated and the silver you feel in the bass?
Yeah, I do. I feel like I do think that this silver plated just adds there's just a little sparkle to it. Yeah. But then you have to deal with the oxidization, you know, and that does leave black on your fingers as well. So it just depends on how picky you are about your bass, you know. Yeah, for its tone. That I mean, I can always get into strings, and that can be like just a day. That can be a whole day. So, because also there's strings that are different diameters, like bow brand versus galley versus generic Didarios, you know, but you have to know what you want your harp to sound like and the nature of the bass of your harp. So if you have a dead muddy bass, I suggest using Didarios. They're thinner. It'll be a little more metallic, but your attack will be much more clear. So if you got bow brand, they're some of the thickest of the bass wire strings. Sometimes they're so thick you can't get it through the lowest C tuning pin. on older harps because they weren't designed for those strings.
I said, what about the Premier bass wires?
There, you don't have Premier bass wires.
Really? Oh,
Theodorio.
You have the generic white packaging.
I do. You're right. I'm sorry. I have a Premier set, so I just was thinking it must be Premier bass wires. Okay.
No, you have generic Didarios.
I haven't had to change a bass wire. Goodness and
So
what?
that's the thing. If you have a harp and you have a muddy bass, put Didarios on there. It'll brighten it right up. Next, best way. Oh, that's again cleaning the edge of the soundboard. You know, I find that just again, you know, window. I use Windex, ammonia free. Put it on a cloth, wipe the harp down. Works great. That's how I clean the harp. Again, what do you dust the harp with? Well, again, just use a paintbrush if you want to dust your, you know, dust your mechanism. And I dust the soundboard, and especially down at the bottom where the column meets the center strip, there's always that little spot that you can never get. Just use your paintbrush, toot, 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 get all that dust out. And if you have carving that's on that top plate that the column sits on, and that always gets so dusty and it's so hard to clean, again, just use a paintbrush and pop that out, pop that dust out. You know, so let's say you just did a gig at the beach, get out your little paintbrush, just dust everything off, and then wipe it down with some window cleaner. You don't want to use any kind of polish because it leaves a waxy buildup. I just saw a harp a few months ago. They were recommended to use a polish over and over again, and her harp is so dark now because it seeped through the cracks over time. And so the oil has now gone into the soundboard of the harp. Didn't damage it or anything, but it is very, very dark. And the harp as a whole is so sticky. It's just sticky. It's very unpleasant to touch for me. So anyway, it leaves a buildup, and again, that breaks down the finish. And the finish is what is protecting the wood in the first place. So, clean the strings. Yeah, you can't really clean strings. You know, wipe them with a dry cloth. You can't use anything on your strings. So, you know, keep your hands as dry as possible. And why do I have a pop-up? Sorry, hang on. That's weird. And then, yeah, so you can't clean your strings. It's that simple. Daily or weekly maintenance for a pedal harp. I mean, on one hand, it seems like we have this really high maintenance thing to take care of, but they're also very resilient. So it depends on you as the person. I have seen dingy harps. I have seen beautiful and pristine harps. That depends on you as the person. So, you know, I live in sort of both places, where I have my harp, and then I have other harps, but I have my one harp. That harp I kind of take more care of. You know, I keep it clean, I wipe it down. You know, I keep strings on it, change the strings on it regularly. And then there's the other guys that are like, whatever. And then I realized maybe 6 months later, oh my God, they're so dusty. Ew. And then I clean them. So it's totally up to you. And neither way is better than the other. It's that's a personal choice for sure. So, I think that takes care of maintenance and cleaning. Which brings us to environmental conditions. And that's tricky. That's very tricky. Everybody lives in different environments, their homes, their just climate in general. So, let's see. We've got care for lever harp in outdoor environment. Example, beach. I'm gonna assume you just did a gig on the beach. You know, try to get all the sand off it as possible. Again, your handy little paintbrush is a very good friend. So just if you see bits of sand, if it's dry out, it'll get it'll get this powder on it. So this is also will be helpful to get any of that fine powder that might be on any of your mechanisms.
Liza, for the harpists that work at the beach and sometimes take their harps on the beach, I personally don't think I'd ever take a pedal harp on the beach. But could the sand affect the mechanism? I mean, obviously you're not going to throw it on the sand. You're going to be careful. But I would think it would be more dangerous for a pedal harp versus a lever harp for a beach wedding.
Well, it can be. It's not, as long as it's not too terribly windy, you know, then the sand's not going to be like blowing around everywhere. Mostly it gets up tucked underneath your harp. I would say the other thing to watch out for, especially if you're a regular beach performer, is that you have to watch out for corrosion. So corrosion, so like when I go to Malaysia, this is the biggest problem. Malaysia is so humid all the time. And it's hard to get, you know, you can't get away from it. Now in the if you're a beach goer and you live in that type of environment, one thing that you can do to help protect from corrosion is get some very light oil, like sewing machine oil, and you can put some in a bowl and use a smaller paintbrush than this, and you're going to dip it in the oil, and then you'll have a towel or something, beep beep beep. You're going to dab it so it's not dripping everywhere. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to just coat your hardware with a fine layer of oil. And that's going to help protect from corrosion on your on the discs, basically.
And Liza, what did you say was an example of a light oil?
Like that 3-in-1 oil. I was trying to spy with my little eye, but my place has too much stuff. It's around somewhere. I don't know where right now. But you know, that sewing machine oil, 3-in-1 oil. In a pinch, WD-40. Although I wouldn't, it's okay. It's not my favorite choice, but it's okay. But the 3-in-1 oil is good. This can be good. I mean, this is the bottle, but it's just all-purpose oil. It's just it's machine oil. So like the 3-in-1 oil is literally sewing machine oil. You get it at Home Depot, Lowe's, any hardware store will carry it. It's very easy to obtain. So yeah, so any metal parts you have, I would give those just a little light coat. So if you live, and part of the corrosion, it's not just the humidity, it has to do also with the salt in the air. So, so if you live in a really humid environment, you need an air con that helps dry the air out, air conditioning. Fans help with drying the air out. Dehumidifier obviously helps dry the air out as well. Keeping up with a dehumidifier, I know, can be very tricky. So it depends on the level of humidity as well. So if you live in an extreme humid environment like Hawaii, you just have to. You have to do it. The other problem with humidity is that also the wood, so let's say you don't have corrosion on the outside of the parts, the wood can trap moisture. And then your tuning pins may not be corroded on the outside, but they will be inside. And then you have a hard time tuning your harp and it won't rotate. And so because inside it's rusted, it's corroded and rusted, and then you have issues. So keeping your environment in your home as much as you possibly can to keep it dry. I also knew somebody who, I asked them, how do you keep your harp? This was in Malaysia. This harp was pristine. It was perfect. It had zero corrosion. It was amazing. And I was like, what do you do? So she had an air conditioner, a dehumidifier, and an ionizer, which I thought was very interesting. So the ionizer, I think, would help with the minerality that's floating in the air to weight it down to drop it to the ground. That's what an ionizer does. So those are all possibilities. I know I'm talking a lot about humid environments.
And I know a lot of you are putting in questions. I want you to know we'll be, if we don't address them today, we will talk about how we're going to get them addressed. But in the meantime, we just got one. What percentage humidity is best? What do you strive for, Liza, in humidity?
Well, it's like us, between 40 and 60. So a nice 50. You know, but I know sometimes that's just not possible. I mean, that's the thing. What if you live in the desert? What are you supposed to do? Like humidify your harp every day? That it's not a possibility. So the other part of the equation is consistency. Know your environment. So if you live in the desert, you're not going to be trying to keep your harp in a greenhouse, basically. You live in a dry environment, you live in a dry environment, and you're going to be fine. The harp will be fine. The harp acclimates to its environment. And MJ, you were saying before, what about these environments that are trickier, like humid in the summer, dry in the winter, like New York? My apartment gets down to 10%. Like, I don't feel good. I feel terrible. I have a 5-gallon humidifier that I keep going at all times. So even when I travel, I make sure I make arrangements with a neighbor to make sure they fill that tank, you know, whenever it needs filling. So
Liza, are the snake humidifiers that bass players have? I know for a few years I was using them. Are they at all helpful with keeping the harp humid?
I think they're very helpful. I know people that swear by them, but they are high maintenance. That's another thing. It's like, you know, basically you have to wet them down almost every day, and they just dry out so fast.
The harp is a harsh mistress. There you go.
It is. She is. He is. They are. So but that just reminded me, there's also a product, I think I have one in my top drawer. I know other people who swear by these, which are Bovita packs. So it's a two-way humidity system. Okay. And then you can put it in this pouch. And then I use two on my on the harps I care about. Sounds terrible. And then you can just hang it. You can hang it inside here. Don't let the packet itself touch bare wood, because these are it's a salt product, so you don't want that. It will interfere with the wood. It will leach onto the wood. There will be a chemical reaction. But what's nice about this is that it's two-way humidity. So this is 49%. I get them on Amazon. And they have all kinds of humidity packets and sizes, depending, some are for clarinets, some are for violins, so there's different sizes. So no mess, no worries, enjoy. Anyway, two of these. So I know somebody, I recommended this to her because she has a completely open loft space. It's impossible to humidify in the winter. And so she said she bought two of these to put in her harp. Within 2 weeks, they dry up and she just keeps rotating them. But it lasts her about 2 weeks. It lasts me about a month and a half because I try to humidify my place. So, what else?
Okay, you lost your place on your sheet. I think you did best room environment. You've talked about that. Protecting harp in car.
Oh, there we are. Right. Protecting harp in the car. Oh, this is very interesting. Okay. So your harp is very resilient, as I have mentioned before. It has to be. It has to be. It's already under 2,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. So, I'm assuming also that you've already bought a cover for your harp, a nice padded cover. So let's just start with that. That's the main thing. Just buy yourself a nice padded cover. You're good to go. So if you don't have a padded cover, then you have 3 strategic places that you're going to put pillows. Strategic place 1, the knee block. Strategic place 2, the top front of the column. And then strategic place 3 is actually, it's not the bottom of the harp. It's actually right about, like if you have an extended soundboard, particularly, it's going to be on that wing, because that hits the bottom of your car first, and the base doesn't even touch. It doesn't even touch. That's where it touches. So those are your 3 strategic points. And I've been getting questions a lot lately also because people have been getting smaller cars and they're like, oh, I don't know, can I put my harp in backwards? So this is just my theory. So we've all been told, never put your harp on the disc side. Don't do it, just don't do it. Well, here's the thing. Back in the day, we didn't have these wonderful padded covers, right? We had like dust covers, either the canvas covers, or some kind of whatever. And so, yeah, don't put your disc side down for sure, because there's nothing protecting them. You just have a thin little cover. But now we have these really, depending on which company you're using and which cover you're using, you have these nice thick padded covers. So you can put it on your disc side. You'll be okay. It's totally fine. And most people even use another piece of padding, under that if you're nervous about that. But then you can push the passenger seat forward if you have a very small car and you have like a little hatchback. And then you just push that in and then get that boot in and you're good to go. I have a truck. Like it's just an open bed. I use a gymnasium mat. I fold it up 3 times so that it's high enough to get past the wheel wells. And so mostly it sits on the gymnasium mat covers from here to about here and over there. So it covers, it's lifted up off of the bottom of the bed because that's hard. It's hard as a rock. And trucks have terrible suspension. So you feel every pothole in New York City.
So Liza,
Oh, I can't hear you.
MJ, you're muted, honey.
I was going to say this is actually life-changing for me, that you don't have to put your harp on the disc side. I just literally got a car, and of course I was obsessed with making sure it fit the other way. Although, as I think you were just starting to say, it's sometimes it can be a lot trickier if you're putting it in the other way. Or I should say if you're putting in bass first, not so much disc.
Bass first is almost, if you want to do it by yourself, like you have to pick the whole harp up. Yeah. As opposed to just leaning it and, and then lifting and pushing.
And as you're talking today, I just keep thinking, I'm sure Robin is too, oh, we could do a whole one on putting a harp in the car. Oh, we can do a whole one on strings. So I think we have our next few hangs.
Well, it is. And I think it's very interesting to everyone because I load mostly all of my harps on their columns, and then I lasagna the rest of them. So, we're stacking.
Exactly.
So padding is key because we're trying to put as many harps in the car. Debbie knows what I'm talking about, right, Debbie? Those Somerset trips, we are packing and racking. And so padding is really, really important. The next thing you have, honey, is how hot is too hot to play outside.
How much are you getting paid?
There you go. That's my theory. That's it. That's it.
I'm sorry, but I mean, you're a working harpist. How much are you getting paid? Is it worth it? Is the price high enough for you to be out, for you, the human being body, to be out there? When you're uncomfortable, then your harp is uncomfortable. Like, I associate the harp so much with our bodies. I mean, the neck is like the spine. I mean, it even has body parts in it. The body, literally the body, the knee block, the feet. So, so I make so many associations because wood is it's like it's I know it's not alive, but it's alive and a breathing. It expands, it contracts, which is why I know you're asking this question. So really, basically don't be in the blazing hot direct sun for sure. First of all, you'll have a stroke. So worry about you more than your harp. You will die. So you must play covered, be prepared, ask around. Like, I've known some people that have some really awesome setups to play outside if they're going to be caught under the sun. And you have to be your own advocate and really speak up about that and be insistent that you and your harp cannot be in direct sunlight in the middle of summer when it's 105 outside So you can play in the 105 weather, but be covered up. I wouldn't go more than an hour.
And I know this is kind of taking us into a different land, kind of into gig land, but you need to do that whenever you get a call. Those of you that play outside your home, you need to stipulate that right away during the conversation. You don't want to wait until you get there. In the past, I've had people actually put up a tent for me because I have said, I have to be in the shade. If you're a person who's making their living or you're doing some gigging, you want that in your contract. Do not take that for granted. I had someone who wanted me to play. It was pouring rain in the rain once, so I had to add, besides the sun, I had to add. I know. I see Ed. I'm with you there, Ed. It's like, really? They did. I'm not making that up. It was pouring rain, and they wanted me to play outside. So the heat thing is very important, and make sure if you're going to play somewhere that you stipulate that out front and you put it in your contract.
Yeah, very good.
MJ, you said to me today that my choices were good ones. And so I think now we did number 4. I think we have time to plow through number 2. I think number 2 should go ahead of what we said before. Can we look at number 2?
Number 2, lever and regulation issues.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
okay. How to repair levers that are not moving smoothly? Well, that can be tricky because it's tricky to answer because there's a lot of different levers. So, and it depends on the reasons why. It's very and so okay.
So Liza, so listen, Liza, so that question will be one of the questions that we say, and I wanted to let everyone know this, and it's real important because I use this all the time when I've saved up enough money. You can book Liza for consultations on some of these issues because they're specific. And I have literally booked her and we have FaceTimed, and even I have been able to kind of fix something until she could get there. So that repair the levers that aren't moving smoothly. The answer is call you. Next.
Okay. How do you know if your harp needs to be regulated? That's a good question. So you can tell because so if you have a lever harp, then tune your harp in the open string, whatever key it is. I don't care. Tune your harp with the open string. That'll be in great tune. Lift a lever. Check your tuner. Is it a little high? It's probably a little high. When it's a little high, or does it match the pitch? Let's say you tune in the key of C. So if you lift your B lever, does it match your C? So use your ears, use your tuner. So, same thing with the pedal harp. And it'll show up the most in your higher strings. So just from middle C and above, I would check those. If you're trying to do N harmonics, that's a good way to check. So is your A flat the same as your G sharp? And again, just use your tuner. Tune all open string, and then use your tuner, check your naturals, check your sharps. Is it in pitch? Is it close enough for you? And also, just as a caveat, really old harps don't regulate perfectly. They're too old. But we could get it probably better. So that's the other part of it. And I would say, as a general rule, how often do you get a regulation? Pedal harps every other year. And that's on the conservative side. That would be a minimum. And then for lever harps, I would say 3 or 4 years. And you should be fine. Again, that's on the conservative side. Um,
So Liza, I'm just going to backtrack for a second because Darhan put something in the chat that I think is interesting. I've seen this, or I've heard of a lot of harpists, pedal harpists that are doing this. Those of you that do a lot of gigs, getting a lever harp for their outdoor gigs. And I think that there's so much literature out now that can be easily converted to the lever harp. So I'm just amazed at, yeah, right, at how many people have been doing that gig, on a regular basis, besides the fact that it's much easier to carry around.
yeah, that's a really great idea. I like that. Okay. Fixing, oh boy, fixing buzzing when using sharping levers. Okay, that's a whole class. So again, that's so specific. There's so many different levers out there. There's Truitts, there's Lovelands, there's Performance, there's the Salvi ones, there's Robinsons, there's Kamak, there's at least 3 more. That's like 9 different, there's probably 10 different levers out there. So you need to know which one that you have. First of all, start with that. Do you even know what levers you have? Start there. Then there's also guide pins. How old is your harp? Because the old school guide pins, bridge pins, you had to hammer in. So that's a thing. But now we have guide pins that screw in, which is a different thing. And then again, it's also how does that guide pin work in tandem with your lever? So just describing that much is like a lot. And so that would be a private consultation or go to Somerset and take my class.
That's right. Liza will be at Somerset, as will Robin, Gordon Cartier. Both of them will be up there. If you don't know about Somerset, look it up. I will have the pleasure I'll be teaching at Interlaken for a few weeks this summer, so I will not make it to Somerset. But I want to say that when Robin and I decided, this would be a great time to have Liza, we said, just do something kind of general. So she sent us that general outline, and then we got all these questions and we realized we needed to take a different approach, which is when we came up with that PDF with the questions. And we were going to wait to see how things went today, but I think they went exactly as we thought they would, and there are a lot more questions. So we, for the first time ever, are going to invite Liza back next month, and we'll also address the rest of the questions in here that we have in here. We'll go back and go through the chat and address some of your questions. Obviously, if Liza were to answer all our questions today, we'd be having coffee with her tomorrow morning. So, we're excited to have her back. I hope you guys are excited to have her back too. And I think she's covered a lot of territory. I just have to say, I've really enjoyed, Debbie, watching your facial reactions. When you were here, it was great. The surprise, the shock, the oh yes. Right. Very entertaining. So, thank you for that. So what's the best way to contact Liza? Great question, Liza. And we can have Katie put this in the chat. What is the best way to contact you?
So one of the best ways is to go to my website, which is lizaharpcentral.com.
And Katie is putting in that in the chat as we speak, info@lizaharpcentral.com.
No, that's my email address.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But my website is lizaharpcentral.com. And on that is a form to fill out. Then I know where you are, what kind of harp you have, your info, and that will be sent then to my email address. And also I know then like it's in a format. And now I do have an assistant because I'm just, with all the traveling, I'm just wicked busy. And so she has to help me so that everybody gets answered. Anyway, so that would be the best way to get through.
And one thing we didn't mention when we were talking about Liza as a wonderful technician, she's also a lot of fun to hang out with. So when you bring your harp in, I can guarantee you it will be entertaining. So just know that next month, the third Tuesday in July, once again, we'll take some of the questions that we have on the chat that she didn't get to. We'll go back through our list and get some of those and get lots more information. Then probably still, obviously not everything we need to know. But before we let Liza go, those of you that missed today's trivia question, which was very quickly answered by Lisa Tannenbaum, who gets herself show. Robin, you want to show her the Hanging with the Harp mug? Liza will get her very own. Lisa, I'm sorry, I keep saying, well, Liza gets one too. Actually, Liza, you'll have two because you're doing it for 2 months, so you'll have basically a set. But I'm going to repeat the question, and then David, our assistant manager, is going to tell us a little bit about this because I think it's fascinating. Name 2 countries where in the 1600s the harp was banned. Many harps were burned and some harps were executed. You have to ask yourself, would you do that? The harp is a harsh mistress, but that might be a little too harsh for some of us. The harp was the symbolism of Celtic culture, and the English were trying to squelch the Celtic heritage. So that's how they did it. They went after the harpist. But is David there? He has a very interesting story about John Thomas. I'd love for him to share. So, David, if you don't mind.
So during that time, Queen Victoria, she was kind of squelching the thing. So some of the harpist options were to be hung or to flee. So John Thomas, he was a triple strung harp player, and he chose, instead of being hung, to become Queen Victoria's personal harpist. And through that, he saved the Welsh folk songs by mixing them in a classical style. His brother, John Thomas, fled to America and became the first harp teacher. So that was some of that during that time.
So I thought that was fascinating that he did them. I'm sure some of you are familiar with Minstrel's Adieu, Watching the Wheat, all Welsh airs that he saved, because the answer was Wales, Ireland, Scotland, anything that wasn't England, basically. So thank you, David, for that. And thank you so much, Liza. I think we're going to have a big crowd as well in July, yes. And we look forward to seeing everybody back at that time, and we'll be organized with the questions and go on through and try and give you as much information as we can.
And Liza, just one that's in the chat, the specific sheet humidifier that you were talking about or using, because someone has already been looking them up and found a bazillion. Is there a specific sheet that pack you had, or could it be any of them if they fit the description?
Wait, what do you mean? The sheet?
That humidifier thing you put in the back of the harp.
This?
That.
Oh, it's just Bovita is the company.
Bovita.
And then this one, because there are different humidity levels. So the one I have is 49%.
Bovita, 49%.
And how do you spell that? I can't see that. I don't have you on speaker. Hang on.
Is that backwards or forward?
Bovita, there we go.
Boveda, maybe?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
I hope that helps. And for anyone whose questions we didn't answer, really apologies, not trying to ignore anyone. Come back and see us, and we will do the best we can. Have a great beginning of the summer.
Thanks again, Liza.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll see you again next month.
I'll see you again next month, twice.
Okay.